Now, this artificial intelligence agents article, it's 2,400 words. Who's got time to read that? And there's about 40 of these technical articles for SBL. Now, luckily for you, Andrew and I are going to tell you what you really need to know about this article. We're going to summarize the key points of it for you. We're going to tell you how this is likely to be tested in your exam so you are ready. And we're going to give you some actions, things that you need to do around this technical article. And finally, we're going to give it, well, something a little bit different at the end. We're going to give it a rating. Now, if you've got any questions about this technical article, then post them in the comments and Andrew and I will be here to answer them for you. So Andrew, I'm going to challenge you here. You've got 2 minutes to summarize this technical article, what students really need to know about it. Go!
Okay, it starts off by talking about the uses of AI in different industries, in different sectors. There's a great bit on retail, even goes into like farming, medicine. Really interesting. I love that stuff, but only really relevant to you as a student if your case study is on one of those industries. So by all means have a read for further reading, but I wouldn't worry about learning it too much. But yeah, great uses of AI. Second bit talks about machine learning and what that is and the differences. So that's one just to be aware of. Again, the subtle differences between those and like definitions of things like algorithms and things, which again, if you're not too sure, it's worth a look.
Yeah, those they do need to know, don't they? Sorry, I've interrupted you.
Yeah, they're worth looking at. Then you've got robotics, so a whole section on robotics and how it's used in things like quality control and manufacturing. Again, could be useful in a whole range of industries, so good to be aware of that. And then we get into the fun stuff, ethics of AI. So things like jobs being at threat, them being biased with outcomes. We got data and how they use your data and how it's being used by AI. And again, lots of things there which could be really useful for you. And yeah, definitely worth having a read of those and thinking about them when it gets to your pre.
And there's a little framework at the end, isn't there, around, who is it, the International Ethical Foundation or somebody, but giving a nice framework for how you should assess ethical issues in the context of AI. Andrew, you absolutely smashed that. So that was about just over a minute, well ahead of 2 minutes. So well done, impressive. Really, if I would kind of go, if I'm a student listening to that, I'm thinking, yeah, this is interesting, but loads of it I don't really need to know. Lots of it's just for awareness. On to how it's likely to be examined. How's it going to come up in your exam? Now, I think the most likely area is all of the ethics stuff at the back. That's the really important content for you to go and focus on. And it will be in an exam scenario. Imagine this. The examiner, the person who's writing your exam, is definitely not an AI expert. Right? They're not. They're an accountant. They're someone like me and Andrew. So I've been an examiner. My background, or none of the examiners' backgrounds, is going to be in AI. So they're going to be a bit scared of this. They're not going to write you exam questions that are all about the detailed workings of an algorithm. They're not, because they're not that sure of it themselves. And neither are the markers going to be. So what they will do is give you a practical scenario where something has happened with AI. And it's so easy to see that being ethics. And the kind of ethics things might be, AI has gone wrong in some way. The company is using AI and it has malfunctioned in some way and there is some sort of implication for it. It's worth thinking about your industry and going, how could they be using AI, your case study? Because then you're thinking about what could go wrong. Data security is such an obvious one that actually, is AI, ChatGPT, is it getting its little feelers into my company's seemingly secure data? Because anything that's available on the internet, ChatGPT can start skimming it and using it. And perhaps my customers or clients wouldn't be happy with that. Another one is about, I think, really obvious one's about transparency. Is the company being transparent with its customers about the use of AI at that business? And it might be that the company's not even that aware of what's happening with AI. You might work for an organization. Have you used AI to help you with your job? Have you used ChatGPT at work? I bet the answer is yes, if you're a digital native. It must be yes. If you haven't, why haven't you?
You're missing out.
But was your company fully aware of all of your uses of AI? Or were you doing it to just make your life a bit easier, a bit more comfortable? If it was the latter of those, and it might have been, are customers aware of how you've been using AI? Maybe they're not. And is there a kind of transparency issue there that customers are perhaps being misled? So those are how I think it's likely to be tested. And it is really focused on the ethics because I think that's the most likely area. Andrew, you were going to come up with actions, weren't you?
I was. So a few things I'd say that you need to do off the back of this article. Firstly, I would definitely know those key terms and definitions. The most important thing is about the context of using AI. So in the exam, just reciting a load of stuff from this article in the exam is not going to help you. So
No, but
you need
so
to
what
use
definitions do they need?
So they need algorithm is a good one. It mentions that in there. Machine learning, even just AI itself and what it actually means. But then also you've got those ethical issues as well, haven't you? So they list out these. I think there are 9 ethical risks.
There's 9 of them towards the back, aren't there? Is that things like, what is that, like mistakes? That section there?
That section
Bias,
there.
security.
Just to be clear, I wouldn't learn those because, again, in the exam, it's not about that. It's not about just rote learning. But what you might need to do, when your pre-scene gets released a couple of weeks before your exam, maybe you could think, do these, how would this work for my company? Go down that list. Could it be that? Could it be this? Could it be that? Could any of those present a risk? Because as Ben said, I think ethics is a big potential question that you could see on it.
And so thinking through scenarios where those things might happen at your company, it's not about like memorizing what your answer is going to be in advance, but it's just thinking a little bit in that context means you're perhaps more ready when one of those things does happen in the exam. So
Ben, we've been through our article. I think it's fair to say we both enjoyed this one. I'd say there's a lot of interesting stuff in here, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, define enjoyment. Relative to some of the other SBL articles, this is a really decent one. I think it's an interesting topic area. I certainly felt like I was learning things. I didn't actually know what the definition of an algorithm was before I read this. I would say I learned some stuff, which I think is a good sign. It struck a good balance between being interesting but not getting too detailed on some of the examples on farming or robotics or whatever. I did actually, before I give you before I release the grading, I actually asked ChatGPT, does it think that does it think that AI wrote this article?
Oh, okay. And what did it say?
Well, because it says at the bottom, written by a member of the SBL examining team.
Okay.
And that's what it says straight away. ChatGPT is like, well, the article says it was written by a human, so it's probably written by a human. And I then challenged it a bit more. It was like, it would say that. But are there any features of it that make it seem like it's AI? And actually, ChatGPT thinks this was not written by AI.
Good to know.
It has a human editorial style, apparently, but it's very academic in its approach and slightly generic in places. This is according to ChatGPT.
Yeah, okay, not us. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah,
so lots of positives, like lots of good things. Any downsides about the article? Anything you weren't too keen on?
I did think it was a bit long.
Me too, yeah.
I had to have a couple of goes at reading parts of it because there's just a lot. And it's quite repetitive as well.
I suppose that first bit, the first paragraph, I was like, oh, this is going to be a long read. But the rest of it, again, it was interesting. So go on, Ben.
The first rule of any of this sort of stuff is keep it exciting at the start so people keep watching.
Yeah.
Anyway, we said we were going to give it a rating. And I think this is probably an 8.
I agree. I'd give us an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. And it's got lots of places this could be examined. I think it's useful for kind of general context too.
So let us know if you disagree, if you think it should score more, score less, put it into the comments, along with any questions that you got as well.
Right, that's it. Intelligent agents done. I hope you found that one useful and you're feeling more ready for any questions that come up on AI and intelligent agents.